Welcome to the AI Value Track. This is podcast 2 in a series of 3. I am delighted to be joined by a colleague of mine, James Bolle, Head of Data and Insights at ReThink Productivity. Hi, James.
Hello, Simon. Thank you for having me.
And returning from episode 1, Ian Hogg.
Thanks, Simon.
So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts today. We're going to talk about those tools maybe that individuals use in their day-to-day lives in business to make them more productive. You know, we talked about the benefits in episode 1, freeing up time, all that kind of stuff. So we'll jump straight in then, Ian. Talk us through some of the tools that are available, for individuals at corporate level to buy that they might be using now or they might want to start to think about using.
Fine. So there's, probably the first place to start is the sort of very personal tools like ChatGPT and other. They're called large language models, but they're basically
LLMs.
LLMs.
That's the
okay.
one. You spell it out, and I'll introduce.
They're called LLMs, and then they are they're a sort of you like a chatbot where you talk to it, you type into it, or talk to it verbally, and it gives you an answer. Okay,
and they're all sophisticated, aren't they? With is it a quick check? Is it? I think one of them's got a deep reasoning where they'll go off. One of them will write you a deep research report. I was using one the other day, maybe Gemini, and it said, "Do you want me to build you an infographic of it at the end?" And it was like, "Yeah, if you really want to, it looked great." But
exactly, and they're the sort of things where you give it an individual. You write it as what's called a prompt, and you're giving it a task, the model, and it comes back with an answer. And that answer could be a PowerPoint presentation, or it could build you a business spreadsheet.
Again, my naivety, but I'll say it. You can't treat it like Google, right? So you can't. Well, you can, but you'll limit use. You can't say, "Find me the best laptop for business use under £1,000," because that's really what you use Google for, right?
Well, here's the difference: is if you asked a good LLM, what it'd say, "Well, tell me a bit more about what you want." It'd come back and ask you some questions.
It's trying to refine. The search.
It would say, "What do you want the laptop for? What's your budget?" It would come back and ask this question. So that's like the first sort of area of these personal tools. The second one is what I would call sort of embedded AI in existing tools. So if you think about it, most companies have got tools that everybody uses. So Gmail, email.
Well, iPhone, whatever it is now, 16's got their AI in, hasn't it?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is there's software tools that the whole company uses. So it could be your email suite. It could be your video conferencing, suite. It could be something like Jira, which is like a ticketing system for problems, or project management software, or CRM. So all of those sort of tools. So what I would call embedded AI in that is the sort of thing where you make available, for instance, note takers within your. If we're doing a video conference, you
everything always wants to take notes and summarize it, and then send me an email with it in afterwards.
Exactly, but that sort of stuff. You might have you might have if you're writing a ticket, like a problem ticket to send to a help desk, it might prompt you with a format and then come back to you and say, "You haven't answered this question." So that I would call that embedded AI into existing systems, and those can help productivity. We talked in the first episode about like scheduling, and scheduling assist. That's a good example where you've got a workforce management platform as an example, and then you've got a tool that helps you
even when I'm writing a PowerPoint now, the little pane will come up and say, "Do you want a different design?" or "Do you want me to," it almost auto corrects or restructures the sentences at times now rather than just check my appalling spelling.
Yeah. And those are, and some of those have got the LLM embedded into the system. And then
just to stop on that point. So we're probably using more AI features than we actually know.
Yes.
Because it might not be called AI. There's, Microsoft use Copilot as a word, but there's a load more stuff out there than we probably take credit for we're using.
I think now almost every software you're using is going to have some sort of AI. If you think about it, if you were doing a tender for a new software tool for your company, you're going to ask the question of the vendor. What's your AI roadmap? What AI do you have now? Is there a chatbot? Do I have to actually read the help files, or can I just question it and say, "Hey, software, can you tell me how to set this up in your software?" So AI ought to be embedded in those sort of tools. And then the sort of third category. So the first one was the sort of LLMs, the large language models. The second one's embedded AI, and the third one are what I'd call AI native tools. Okay, so they tend to be, these are being sold now as sort of almost like with a they've got a job title with them. So, for instance, like legal AI, so it's like your lawyer in house will do all your contracts. It is AI sales development rep.
So it's got a specific
task,
job title almost that then leads to the task.
Yeah. So a good one, sales development rep. So in software and a lot of other businesses, that's the person we would have called when I was younger. They would call that telesales.
Yep.
But now it's all on LinkedIn and messaging. And there is somebody or several people have built an AI that just manages that sort of process. So those aren't just sort of layering on or embedding a bit of AI into an existing platform. Those are saying, right, from a clean sheet of paper, how do I give somebody a tool that is almost equivalent to replacing a full-time person? And again, we talked about it in the first podcast on the series. That's the sort of tool that is replacing entry-level jobs. So a senior salesperson gets this AI SDR. Not so long ago, a senior salesperson would have had a real SDR. You've still got the senior salesperson, but a lot of the legwork on LinkedIn and email notifications done by an AI.
What's SDR, sorry?
Sales development rep.
There you go.
Telesales.
Yeah. In the old world.
Now
no telephones.
But it's like, I think I might have used this example before at our productivity forum. Like, people talk about robots. As soon as the robot is useful in doing a specific job, it's not called a robot anymore. You have several robots in your house. They do your dishes for you. They clean your clothes. They're called dishwashers and washing machines. AI is exactly the same. People talk about this big idea of AI, but as soon as it's actually doing something useful, it just disappears into the tools and disappears into our day-to-day jobs, and they don't talk about it being AI anymore.
Yeah, and again, people watching, listening, I'd challenge them to think about all those product suites we just talked about. As a business at ReThink, we use Google, Gmail, and we get Gemini in there, but it's also now appearing, it will give you 3 suggested responses to an email.
Yeah.
You have to be really careful because there might not be your tone or language, and sometimes you might be saying that's a great idea when the email might not be such a great email, and vice versa. So as ever with this
and
stuff,
sometimes it takes longer to read the 3 responses than it does just to reply.
There is that, and there's some interesting stuff of it'll rewrite it, it'll soften it, it'll make it more formal, so there's some really cool stuff that has a real impact on people and probably gets you out of some situations or helps you avoid them. But my point is, whenever I personally use those, I don't think, it probably doesn't register with me, I'm using AI today. It's just the way it, and all those features come and new ones come, and on Google Meets now you can have different backgrounds and you can put stupid faces on, and it takes notes for you and it emails them to you and it gives you a summary of it and it gives the action points with who's it's been assigned to. And all it is a pop-up that comes up and says, now you can do this, and you go with it or you don't. It's that ingrained in what we do. I suppose the point I'm making is it's evolving quickly, but I never sit back and think, I've used a lot of AI today. It's just the way it is.
No, and it's just tools that make you more productive. So, I mean, people wouldn't use them if they didn't make their jobs easier, and they have names and they don't think I'm using AI to do this. I'm using this feature in this tool and it's making things better. And people are using ChatGPT to help them write, tend to write more quickly, but also higher quality. So it increases their productivity. People in knowledge economy jobs can use large language models to make their writing more effective.
So there is evidence.
Not just yeah. I mean, there's studies that show that it is. People can code more effectively or more elegantly using a large language model than just doing it from scratch.
So my counter would be, and if I'm playing devil's advocate, are we not just getting lazy then?
Well,
I feel lazy sometimes with a canned response. It feels it's the right answer, but all I've done is press a button.
I listened to a podcast with Stephen Bartlett the other day, and they had a guest on that was saying that by using all these large language models, we were all going to get dementia because we were so lazy that we actually weren't thinking for ourselves. Yeah. So possibly, I'm no expert on that one, Simon.
Possibly, but you've got I read a case study where T-Mobile had used some AI to, while an agent was on the phone to a customer, the AI would read through that customer's service history and how many times they'd called and what they'd called about, and would prompt the agent with questions to ask the customer. And guess what? Customer satisfaction went up, job satisfaction went up because they were having nicer conversations, and sales went up. And so, it's a win-win-win.
Yep.
If you're using the tools, I think you talked, Ian, in episode 1 about having humans in the loop and using AI to enhance people, you can do this not to make people lazy, but actually to make them better and enjoy their work more. And that's what you're looking for. And I think, there probably are people that use it in a lazy way, like the lawyer that put all their case details into ChatGPT and in court cited a case that ChatGPT had made up and was called up on it.
And that's the danger, right?
And that's the danger.
Exams, kids doing coursework on them. There's a whole, whenever there's a positive side to this, there's always dark side's the wrong word.
I think
there's other ways people will use it.
Yeah, but if you engage your brain, if in your organization you're giving people the tools and showing them how to use them properly and how to think about them, then I think there's lots of evidence that productivity is increased. And also, what's interesting is there's a Deloitte study looking at when you talk to leaders about how AI has changed their organization, I think more of them still talk about it's saving us money than it's giving us new ideas and making the quality better. But it's proven in tests on individuals that if you are using the tools in the right way, then it can make you more productive.
I also think, going back to the laziness point, Simon, is really a lot of the tasks that it's taking off of people are the boring, mundane stuff they don't want to be doing. It's like, looking for a bug. So if you take some software developers, it's really good. It's like, this doesn't work. I've been playing around this. I can't crack the puzzle. It looks at it and says, you've got a comma missing there. It's like
wood through the trees. That kind of stuff.
So and then we've recently been training our operations team at ShopWorks how to use some agents, and one of the guys sort of came up with a use case where he had the most mundane, horrible job on the back end system that he managed to get the agent to build, and he was just delighted. It's like,
you don't have to do that anymore. One of those dread doing that. Leave it till Friday job.
Yeah, the satisfaction of getting that solved was great for him. So.
And I was going to ask, how do we get AI usage up? I kind of feel like we're using it after the start of this podcast. We're using it more than we think. But if you still don't think you're using enough of it, what kind of things can people be doing? We talked in episode 1 about paid subscriptions, so making sure people have got the right tools and it's in that business context environment. They're not, maybe using their free version on their phone. But are there other things, Ian, that people could be doing?
So I can quote an example we did too. One of the projects we're doing at ShopWorks is, as well as trying to get the software we sell to be much more AI enabled, to use the category we talked about earlier, is I'm trying to get our team to use AI as much as possible so they can be as efficient and we can deliver projects quicker and better for the customer. Okay. And one of the things we did, we got the operations team. So they're the people that sort of help implement new software. So the project management, managed service of software configuration, that sort of stuff. So we bought them all a ChatGPT license, and the first thing we did was get on a Zoom call with it, and we asked some questions about what people knew and what they didn't. And a lot of people had some knowledge, but they'd only had the knowledge. These software tools, if you use them, they add new features every week.
Yep.
So if you
every day at the moment,
exactly, if you haven't been on it,
pops up, goes, you can do this now.
Exactly. If you haven't been on it for 3 weeks, you might not know what one of those buttons does. So we went to it line by line, and then one of the things we did was then we set sort of a task for people to go away and experiment and see if they can then come back and share their best case for. And that was part of the training session. So none of that's rocket science. That is just training.
Yeah.
But it does surprise me how few people are getting formal training on ChatGPT. Of course, the best place to get training on ChatGPT or any of these language technologies is ask it to train you,
of course
and it will. But even getting into that mindset is important. So how do you get usage up? So training, encourage people to think differently. So encourage people to ask ChatGPT
Is it like your colleague example? Is it almost brainstorming with the team? What's all the mundane stuff? What's all the stuff that takes time? So proportionally, we spend a lot of data entry time, duplication, whatever. Almost get those sticky notes, however you want to do it, user cases to then try and use it to solve. So back to one, and maybe what we'll talk a bit about in podcast 3 of what are the business challenges that I'm trying to solve.
100%. You have to read right to left when you're thinking about AI and start with the problem you're trying to solve, because too much of this tech is just tech looking for.
You can go down a rabbit hole of back to pretty pictures of cats on the moon.
Yeah.
You end up in all the nice stuff. When you come to the end of it, you go, actually, what benefit has that had?
And another one is share success stories. Is when somebody's within a team has used it to do something clever. But I think it's almost an imagination challenge for people. So these things are incredibly powerful. They can do a lot of tasks. But the first time you start using it, you sort of use it once, think that's clever, but you actually don't do anything productive.
You've touched the iceberg though at that point.
Exactly.
It's like, that's clever, but
it's clever, but actually it didn't save me any time. And actually, I've now got a picture of a cat dancing on the moon.
Lottery numbers, that was surely a way to go. Predicting lottery numbers must be. That's the one that no one's talked about that, have they? Right, can we edit that out because we're giving away IP now? Intellectual property, by the way, that was. Sorry.
I think the example that I heard, and I know the pace of change has changed over time, has increased, but after the introduction of electricity, it took about 30 years in the Western world for steam and for horses to be replaced, and people have effective ways of doing things today without AI. There's no reason for them to change them unless they see it or they feel it.
Or dislike it that much.
And some people might dislike it but be afraid to change because they don't want to lose their job. So there's, the organisation has a lot of work to do, I think, in order to encourage people to experiment, to make them feel safe to experiment and adopt these things. And it's a lot easier in what you would call digital first businesses or digital native businesses. An organization that's been going 15, 20 years started, when I first started my first job, we had one computer in the office that was connected to the internet. We used to fax everything across.
Dial-up?
Yeah.
For those that don't know what dial-up is, that's when you almost had a phone on it.
Modem.
A modem, yeah. Well, you might have a router now, similar. And it used to dial. And when it was on, you couldn't use the phone to start with, could you? And you were paying like 30p a minute or something stupid, and it was like really slow.
Well, ChatGPT gave me a history of the internet.
Did it? Well, there you go. For anybody listening or watching, that's your first prompt. What was your prompt?
Tell me about the history of the internet. Yeah.
There you go.
But that's, there are legacy businesses that have got lots of data or lots of processes that exist from a time even before email and the internet, and then trying to get AI into that is clearly going to be difficult. And you have all these startups that are coming in and just doing everything with AI.
Yeah.
That gives them an agility that's a bit of an advantage over the big organizations. And from the research I've read, you look at China, you look at India, you look at some parts of America, businesses there are just doing everything with AI and outcompeting the legacy businesses really quickly. So to a certain extent, I think it's important, it's imperative almost for managers and leaders in organizations to start getting people to adopt it, because otherwise you'll get outrun, outmaneuvered by somebody more agile.
Yeah, and just to get back to agents, Ian. So, where should firms begin? And we'll talk in the next bit maybe about how we get started with agents. But where should firms begin? So, what things should they start to think about in terms of workflows?
Is it worth just clarifying what an agent is?
It is, indeed.
Yeah. So if you think we talked about the large language model, which Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, a few others. You sort of run an individual task on it. As a person, I log on to it, I type into it a prompt, and it does the task and it gives me the answer back. Okay, so it's a sort of a one-to-one.
And that could be a recurring task. It could be a one-off.
On the whole, they don't do scheduling these things. So you can't. So for instance, you can't say do this task every Saturday at 9 o'clock. You do the task, and it requires you to be there to manage that prompt and sometimes answer questions. An agent is effectively an AI normally using exactly the same technology like as ChatGPT or Gemini, where it is going off and doing the task for you. So here's a couple of good examples. So within ChatGPT, there's an agent mode, okay? And so I have a task where I have to go and gather some competitive information from 5 websites. It's public information, and I set the prompt going. I use the same prompt, and I tell it to go off to these 5 sites, and it literally opens a little window, opens the sites, scrapes the information, puts it together, and puts it in a report, which it then makes available for me. Okay. Another task an agent might do is we use it for some software configuration. So it goes on to the settings of a customer. We've got these sort of prompts written, so it goes on and it might configure, say, for instance, a lunch break rule on workforce management, and you give it the standard template. It goes off. It logs on. You have to log on for it. Actually, it then configures it. But it's more likely going to do 20 of these. It's not going to do one rule. It's going to do all of the rules. Then it goes and creates a shift that meets the criteria for the rule, and then confirms that it's correctly set up. Okay, and it can go and run that. So that's what an agent would do. Okay, so
it's a specific task or a specific set of instructions.
Yeah, and the productivity gain for the company is let people use their imagination and go and find out all of these individual micro tasks. So that particular task and hundreds of other ones like it. Like I have a job where I have to go get information for 5 competitive websites. We're not going to get a project team together, define, this is the power of it. We're not going to get a project team, set a budget, set some KPIs and some measurements. We're going to just give somebody a tool, and when they get fed up with doing this boring job on a Monday morning before they can do the rest of their job, they're going to train an agent, and they're just going to run that every Monday morning. Then they're going to open another window and then run another agent to go and do the next task. So that's the difference between an agent and just as a standard prompt. And there's one other sort of nuance on that is those agents within ChatGPT or Gemini, you still can't schedule them. Okay, I'm sure it's coming. So
it sounds like an obvious next step of every Monday.
Yeah.
Pull this report for me.
But there are other tools out there, automation tools, which basically can connect to OpenAI or Gemini or Claude or any of these models, go and perform the task, and they can be scheduled. So instead of me having to wake up on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock and cut and paste that prompt to go to those 5 websites and set the agent running, there's a tool that just wakes the agent up and does it every Monday morning. So, the productivity gains are each individual builds a suite of agents to automate the boring, mundane tasks. And when they wake up on a Monday morning, it's already there presented, and actually they start adding value by reviewing the information and making decisions based on it.
Have you any experience with agents, James, that would be good to share?
Nothing that has yielded anything kind of concrete, but I think the way that agents are going, everyone talks about agentic AI, and what Ian's just described is basically what that means. AI is no longer sufficient to have an interface you ask questions to and it gives you answers. It's goal based now. So you want to say, this is what I'm trying to achieve, and can your agent achieve that for you?
And I assume in the future, the scheduling of it each week, produce me this report, feels like probably in this day and age, a fairly simple next step. It feels like then the next evolution from that becomes, scrape these 5 websites, produce me this report in this format, whatever, present it to email it to these people, whatever, but also look for wider opportunities in other websites or across the web that I've missed. So fill in my blind spots.
Yeah. Autonomous agents, I guess, are probably the goal, where it sees, you've had a meeting come in your diary next Friday. You're going to need this information. Here's the report ready for you. Or you ran this report. I thought you'd be interested in this as well.
And that's a personal one. I also naively probably see a world where there's business to business ones and business to customer ones. So at some point I get an email, text, whatever it might be, saying, Simon Hedaux, your personal agent has negotiated you a better rate with British Gas because we've looked at your contract, we see you coming up, we see you charge your electric car, we think it's going to be sunny for the next 12 months, so we've got you this rate.
Yeah. I think, I agree. All those things are coming. I think right now though for businesses, there some of the tasks that we just talked about that you can get agents to do, they can save development work. So nobody's ever got enough resource to get all the, everybody's got technical requirements to be built, or they want their vendor, their supplier of their software to change the product. Some of these agents will allow you to bypass that. So you can build effectively your own feature to go to a software tool. So, and an individual can do that just for the one task that they're doing.
This is where I get dangerous though, because this is where the likes of me, who has a zero technical ability, will produce something that looks great, and then when it breaks, has no idea how to fix it. And that's when I think we rely then on the agent or the AI to do it. If they can't fix it, we're in a world of pain.
Well, you say that, but we talked earlier about adoption. I don't think we completely closed that off. But one of the best ways to get people to adopt the agents is, and anybody can try this. You can try this at home, as they say. Is if you just give a few line prompts to ChatGPT's agent mode, okay, and set it going. You literally a minute, give it a task, go to these 5 websites and get me this information. It will talk you through what it's doing. It'll say, right, it'll say things like, I'm clicking on the home button, but I can't find what I'm looking for. So I'm going to try this. Okay. And it could take 10, 15 minutes to do. Okay. Once you've done it once, you then say to ChatGPT, could you tell me how I could have made it easier for you to have done that? And it'll say, if you told me that all the information was on page called this and give me the URL or the 5 URLs, I could have done it in a minute. Okay. So they are remarkably persistent. So it will keep going and you don't get many failures with them. What you do get is you get long, it's like, OpenAI are paying the compute costs for that, but you do get long tasks that take too long.
It's a logic tree, I assume. So when it hits a dead end, it'll reverse up and go down the next one until it keeps getting further and further and thinks it's done it.
It'll keep trying. So if you give it a really simple prompt, it'll keep going. But if you gave it a more direct prompt, which is go to this page, look at row 7 and collect that bit of data, and it's in this format, and then put it into this attached spreadsheet in this format.
So clear instructions.
Yeah, exactly. Like anybody, any assistant or co-worker, if you give it a clear instructions, it'll just go and be much quicker.
So have we got good examples that are out there at the moment of agents that people could copy, where they're using it in a specific example? I think there's bits around fraud out there. There's bits around predictive maintenance, I hear. So it almost knows when a chiller's going to break down in a supermarket, so you can replace the motor before it breaks down on the sunny day and you can't sell ice cream. Are there bits like that people can start to go after?
Yeah, well, some of those are like forecast engines, so they're like alerts.
Yeah.
So they're giving you an alert. So another way to think of that is you've got tools that are triggering alerts. Where they're just they're forecasting what's meant to be happen, and if something different happens, they alert you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the temperature should be 25 degrees, and the aircon should be 25 degrees, and it's much colder than that. So then the agent would go and automatically act on that decision, would go and reconfigure the,
call the maintenance person to come and fix it.
And there are people using AI to optimize their saving money on their electricity bill by optimizing their aircon. So, across large estates and large buildings, so that something's monitoring it, it triggers an alert, and instead of it sending a message to the maintenance person to go up to the 4th floor and turn the aircon down, the agent does it. Yeah. So the agent is taking an action. Okay, and that the examples you talked about, chatbots, where they're just responding to customer queries.
And they've come on a bit because they used to be really binary, didn't they? Of if you didn't give it exactly what it wanted, it'd just kind of say, I'll put you through to an agent, or you'd go back into a loop.
And here's the thing. So if I'm talking to a chatbot, and James was alluding to this, and I say to it, can you give me effectively FAQs? Can you tell me what time you open? Okay. That to me is not an agent. That's just like a smart communication large language model. If you said, listen, I've got a problem in my account. I'm frozen out. Can you change the passwords? or something like that. It might ask a few questions to do security.
Yep.
Okay. It might not be happy with the answer, so it asks the second level question, and then it might come back and say, "Yeah, fine, you've passed security now. I'm going to reset your password. Can you confirm when we've sent you a text? All that sort of stuff."
Yeah.
It could send the text. It could wait that, and when it's got all the answers, it's happy. It can reset your password and then send you the temporary password. So that's the difference between. They're good use cases for agents, but the agent has to take some action. It can't just be giving you an answer.
That's it.
And there's lots in security as well, certainly in retail, isn't there? If you shop at a self-checkout now, there's probably a camera above you or on it that's maybe not turned on for facial recognition, but will be in the future to look at age profile. There's some stuff in the news about people being on AI recognising serial shoplifters and putting them on banning lists or alerting other people on that retail park or in that shopping centre. So all that stuff seems to be, because of the cost challenge, really pushing the user cases of it and the technology. You got any other examples, James, before we close?
Yeah, I think I read a case study from Domino's in Australia, which is interesting because the Australian market is generally considered to be one of those that is lagging in AI adoption, like the UK. But it was in Domino's, and they'd used a camera to monitor pizza quality as it was coming out of the oven, and a simple automated tool would just tell you the pizzas are coming out bad, go and investigate it. But if you build into that, pizzas are coming out a little bit burnt, I'm going to turn the oven down automatically, then it works more effectively. And it was a franchisee in Melbourne had used a combination of demand forecasting using AI and some cameras to monitor product quality. They were getting pizza delivery down under 6 minutes from clicking order on the website through to delivery to house.
Better quality, I assume, as well.
Better quality, quicker, better customer satisfaction, actually enabling them, you almost get the pizza before you've clicked it. It's, it was enabling them to...
That's Minority Report now.
Yeah.
Predicting pizzas. We're all going to start to get Domino's delivered before we've ordered
on
it.
the TV. We know we're going to get these orders at this time. We pre-make them. They're ready to go, fresh and hot and the highest quality. It's redefining what you can expect from pizza delivery because it's taking 25 minutes off the delivery time. It's really remarkable, and that's where a combination of agents can really enable a business, a physical business selling physical products, to make a huge difference to what it does.
Perfect. So we will close podcast 2 on that point, and everybody listening and watching will now be having pizzas delivered that they didn't know they ordered. So enjoy your pizzas. I'm sure it'll be well made. Hopefully it's not come from Australia because it might be a bit cold. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, James. And I will speak to you again, James, on podcast 3.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Simon.